high blood pressure.
I would like to call the Town of Rocky Hill Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting of Wednesday, February 21, 2024 to order. Anyone in the public who would like to address to the commission? Just housekeeping, we have Commissioner Mahos via Zoom. So, just for everybody's benefit. Consent agenda.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 4A.
Land modification application, Ace Hardware 43 Corporation, proposing an outdoor retail location in 2 parking spaces and parking lot of 945 Cromwell Avenue in a C Commercial Zoning District ID 16-262.
We have presentation.
Yes, Tommy Kerr.
Oh,
All right, you can.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Yank.
Before you start,
Yep.
just another housekeeping. I think we don't have,
Nope.
so just,
When
all
you-
the regular members are seated, including Commissioner Morhos, who is via Zoom.
And I will ask if, when you make a motion, I'll probably ask who seconded it.
So, yeah, so if we can raise if you're seconding and if you're making motion, because we don't have the recording secretary, so just to help keep up.
Thank you.
Good.
Hello, Tom Yanker, representing Ace Hardware 43 Corp., owner of the location in Rocky Hill here at 945 Cromwell Ave, requesting to free up 2 parking lot spaces designated by the maps that you have there. You have 2 maps there for us to do temporary outside sellable merchandise for the spring into summer season.
Just for the commission's, just for the record, the application as well as, there was an email that kind of provided a little bit more explanation. It was from John Taylor, who I believe works at that store.
Unfortunately, he is not with us at the moment, but
Oh, okay. But he had
sent in.
He had sent
yes.
something on February 1st, so I included that in your packet as well.
Do you want to read it for the record? So I can-
I can, yes. It is addressed, it's an email from John Taylor addressed to me. It's sent February 1st. Hello, Kim. Yes, we will be storing only topsoils and mulch in the area. Nothing is a hazard. These pallets will be for sale merchandise only and not for storage. So just like Home Depot and Walmart, the customer shops the area, and we either assist the customer with getting the product or they do it themselves. The fence is to delineate the area even more than just the 2 parking spaces, so the consumers know that that is where the product is and can find it easily, also for safety. As for top cover, none would be needed because none of the products are hazardous. Just like years past, we would like to use the spaces from March 1st to October 31st. That's the selling time frame, and in most cases, we take it down by early October. Hope this answers your questions. If not, please let me know.
All right. I think there is there is other.
There's an email from, it's to John Taylor from Maqsood Sheikh. He is the owner of the plaza.
Correct.
Cold Spring Plaza. It's dated 1/22/24. I gave permission to Ace Hardware to change the site plan using the 2 front parking spaces. These are to be fenced off and for sellable merchandise. Thank you. And there is a aerial photo with a little square in blue that shows those spaces that they're looking to use. Nothing was stated about the detail of the fencing or anything, so they may have some
Yeah,
questions on that.
yeah, please, yeah, if there are specific questions on it.
All right. So you're done with presentation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward from our perspective. Just want to follow the guidelines that you guys
Yep.
have set for the town and do it by the book.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll open up the proposal for discussion. Commissioner Zarelli?
My only thing was, you brought up my first point, speaking of the book. On page 87, our regulations, we have section 6L,
Okay,
display or storage of materials. Number one, in all zones, the display, exhibition, or storage of merchandise, materials, or articles for sale in the required front yard shall be prohibited, and the storage of such materials behind the building line shall be covered or screened from the street. So I'm just wondering how we would approve something when in our regulations it says to deny the storage or any type of display of materials in the front yard. I also go to number 2. We have a little
What
couple
page was
exceptions
that?
there.
What
and
page was that?
87, 6L. That gets into where we discussed all the storage trailers, the cargo trailers. So that's really the only question I have, because it seems like it's kind of the same application that came before us in the past. I don't know if this is to the applicant or to staff. Is there a difference?
Well, in storage of materials behind the building line shall be covered or screened from the street. So if it's screened from the street, would it not be allowed?
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the front yard and the display for sale of merchandise. I mean, that seems like that's what this application's all about.
Well, it's not, it's building line, it's not building.
No, I get it. I just need someone to take me through why this application is the exception to 6L1, and then we go into 6L2 when it becomes, I see the fence there, but we don't see any details about the fence, which I'll leave to the applicant.
Well, required front yard would be the front yard setback. It's not in the front yard setback. Because you can have front yard, but if a required front yard would be the setback, the actual building setback.
So
I
in
don't
this
have a
case,
problem
where is
with
that?
But it should be screened from the street. And in this case, there's 2 streets, Cold Spring Road. So it would basically be like an opaque fence on the Cold Spring Road side as well as the Cromwell Avenue side. And then open up on the other 2 sides. It could be. Does that make sense?
It says in the front yard shall be prohibited, but,
It says in the required front yard.
but
A building has a front yard, meaning it's the front of the building, but a required front yard would be the setback.
So the building line is the setback line.
That's the setback. That would be the,
So there's the saying from the building line, which is the setback line, to the curb, they can't,
to the front property line.
okay.
So in this case, where
Because
would
a
that be?
required front yard would, well, that
If I look at the site plan, where would that be on the site plan?
would be where these
All the
cars are
grassy
parked,
area?
and where the cars are parked. Some of the cars are parked. It's hard to show on this small sketch. Yeah, the property line is approximately 1 foot off of the sidewalk. You see the sidewalk on Cromwell Avenue. If you find the staple in the upper right, the sidewalk you can see at the top of the page. The property line is approximately 1 foot interior in towards the building. That's the front property line. And then towards the bottom of the page, the curved road, that's Cold Spring Road, approximately 1 foot off the back of the sidewalk towards the building. That's the front property boundary. And then you go to your setback requirements in the commercial zones, and it will tell you it's so many feet back would be your required front yard. So,
So number 1 doesn't apply in your,
well, both myself and Ben Winter, our assistant planner, CEO, both took in the application, not seeing an issue with this. So, And if you have a problem with this, I guess it's an issue for zoning board of appeals. That they would have to take up appeal against a ZEO decision, having them put forth an application.
So storage is allowed in the entire parking lot because it's not required in the front yard. Because the language says not required in the front yard. So storage can be anywhere in the parking lot.
They're coming to you for this, as did Walmart come to you for this type of thing. However, screened or covered from the street. Here you have Cold Spring Road, once again, and Cromwell Avenue. So if this material will be visible from Cold Spring Road, which it may be, as well as Cromwell Avenue, those two areas generally to the east and to the south should have screening.
Because it says, okay, because there is an end, so the storage of such material behind the building line shall be covered or screened from the street. So what I'm saying is, anywhere in the parking area.
But they have to
They can
come to
put-
you. They have to come to you.
So this is my general question, so the question is, town of Rocky Hill allows storage, covered storage, screened storage.
They have to come,
behind-
and
behind the-
they would have to come to you, yes. And other places have come to you, the commission.
I think the other places came, but I think there was a difference, right? Wasn't there requirement that they put covered? I think they put in the covered. I think that's the only one instance we have in the town, right?
There was no cover on Walmart, no.
Was there cover, like,
I remember storage trailers at Walmart, but that's all.
No, they got the three,
There was an
three or
outdoor
four
display.
spaces in that little nook with the
Yep.
trees there that they fill up every year with topsoil and mulch and
I'll get you the plan for the next meeting on Walmart.
it doesn't say, you know, again, if you always think back to intent and whether thinking that this section 2 was thinking more about permanent storage and this is temporary seasonal storage. So it won't be in the way when it comes time for snow removal and all those other things.
So is this permanent in perpetuity, or they have to come back every year for this permit since it's seasonal?
Ask the applicant.
We'd come back every year if that was required, just fill the paperwork out and, for sure. And ideally, we'd like to do it every year.
I have nothing, oh, everybody else has questions. I have nothing.
Commissioner?
I'm going to pass for now.
Okay.
I guess the only two questions I'd have is in terms of what Kim was talking about, screening on Cromwell Ave and Cold Spring. How do you, there's mention of the fence. We don't know what the fence is, so in terms of screening and/or fence, what are you proposing to do with that?
So we can go in two different options from a fencing perspective. You know, a chain link fence that is temporary, we could put the slots in, and you can buy different color slots to run through that it would protect or make it not visible from the road. Or if you deem that not enough or not presentable, we could certainly do a temporary vinyl type fence pretty easily, depending on sort of which direction you found acceptable. But either way, we would just follow your guidance on what, from an aesthetic perspective, and or the term covering, would the slats be enough of a cover to protect it from
On
the
the two
visible?
sides.
Yeah.
And I guess the only other question I had is the two parking spots. I'm assuming one of those is not a handicap spot? They're
It is
both
not, no.
regular spots?
Neither are handicapped, correct?
Also,
Commissioner?
No questions, other than just offer an opinion on the fencing, that I think a white vinyl fence or something like that would probably
Yeah,
be more
if
attractive.
you guys deem that to be more customer-centric or neighborhood-centric, we could go either direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Morhos?
I don't find any issues with this right now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't get to test before we started the meeting. I don't find any issues with this right now, and keeping in mind that this has gone on for several years before this, and there haven't been any issues that I'm aware of. I don't know if the police or anybody else has had any problems with it. So, other than that, if they put up a fence on the, I'd say that's the east side and the south side of those two parking spaces that would block the piles of soil and peat moss, whatever they have there, that would make sense to me.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Mordhost. You don't want to have four sides. It'd be a little bit hard to get in to pull out the products, and so it seems like the screening would, wherever the fence goes is where the screening is needed, and then, other than that, you could probably use the plastic chain that you've used before to just make sure the area is sectioned off. But
Absolutely.
I would think that as long as the two sides are screened adequately, we should be okay.
Not a problem.
Commissioner Brescia?
I've got two. So, was this in use before COVID, or was it because of COVID?
That I'm not aware of. If we did, I know we've looked into this before, and I know we've done it in past. I don't know if it was COVID related or not, but we just sort of following the process this time around.
Okay.
Yeah.
And no impact on, I know there's a new business that started there?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it
we
won't be
don't-
any impact on any of the businesses. No, it's
Okay.
far enough removed from entranceway and parking spots. Probably the least used parking spots.
That's it.
So, yeah, you said there won't be any impact to the business. I mean, I don't know, and I will ask this to Kim, is there any requirement to seek approval or any sort of notification to the neighboring businesses? Say, you know, there are restaurants, and the restaurant wants to put outside seating, they'll be sitting next to this pile of, you know, whatever there is, right?
No, the property owner needs to sign the application and provide permission for a business to apply for something on their property, which was done, but there is no required notification to businesses, and there isn't in any plaza for.
So any impact?
So there would be, in any plaza, if a new business is coming in, there's no notification required by this body to notify other businesses in the plaza that something is being changed. It's required that the property owner be notified.
The other question, is there any other storage other than these two spots?
We don't have any other physical
How about
outs.
behind the building?
Not behind it all, no.
I know that there had been issues in the past. We, in zoning enforcement, have had issues in the past with storage out in back. And we have, in the past, worked with the manager as far as making sure the deliveries, that while they're dropped off, they are in a fairly timely manner brought into the building. I know we've had talk. It was with the gentleman that had been here in the past.
John might have been, yeah. Yeah, as of the last, I'll say, 6 months, there hasn't been any outside storage whatsoever with that. From a delivery perspective, they get it in and out in a relatively quick manner. We've redesigned the store on the inside just slightly just to accommodate that piece, so it's not lingering outside. But yeah, we should not have an issue going forward either.
So I will leave it up, I would just confirm with other commissioners who are,
I did have one
Okay.
question. Have you looked at any other locations besides those two in the front?
We've kind of talked a few of them with the owner of the plaza. Those seem to be the two most remotest ones that wouldn't impact any business or any driving aspect of getting into. Probably not the most convenient for us per se, but convenient for the customer, for sure.
I'm more concerned, the fact that you're gonna have to put a 6-foot fence, you're gonna have a blind spot,
Okay,
sightline issue.
okay.
Cars coming from the right, coming in west and then going south. You're not
Gotcha.
gonna be able to, anybody pulling out's not gonna be able to see them.
It doesn't have to be necessarily 6 feet high, depending on what they're putting here.
Yeah, typical
So,
pallet
I
of
don't-
soil is only going to be probably 4 at the most, or if we
So-
estimate a height, just so we cover that
I mean,
perspective. And you also have from the road to the parking
there
spot, you've got that
outdoor
grass
storage?
area.
So
except behind a 6-foot high fence, but they're actually
what are
selling
you
it,
proposing
so,
for a fence?
I don't know.
Um,
We don't know
If
yet.
white vinyl seems to be the most, we could make it 4 foot, and we just ensure that all our pallets are below the 4 feet, which vast majority of them are. If it needed to be
Just
6
concerned
foot,
about-
because we can customize it to whatever requirements we need to meet.
And maybe the fence, I don't know if the fence would go all the way out to, it's shown in the aerial. I don't know exactly where the items are gonna be in this rectangular shape.
So say you move those spots behind where you're proposing them, then you eliminate the sightline issue.
Yeah, we can certainly move the spots farther down the line there if need be, because they're in the corner currently. So we can move it down that row of spots if that makes better sense from a sightline perspective,
The row behind it, not alongside of it.
a lot alongside of it.
No, not alongside of it.
Not alongside of
The
it.
handicap parking?
To the east. To the east.
Not in the,
Is that handicap?
there is a handicap space directly in back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a safer spot.
What's a handicap spot?
So you mean maybe diagonally to the southeast, maybe?
A waiver
Correct.
option.
Diagonally to the southeast?
That'll eliminate the sightline issue of cars driving through the main drive.
So there's the first spot there is a handicap accessible space, so you're talking, the aerial photograph shows 2 dark vehicles. It shows that handicap crosshatching and an empty space. I would say where those 2 dark colored cars are, is that what you're thinking?
I'm just trying to
That in
eliminate
that
a
area?
line assignment, so, I mean, a sightline issue,
Yeah.
so it could be anywhere in the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just trying to be on that side, just from a customer perspective of parking for all the other businesses. Those are the least used. But yeah, we can certainly move it diagonal to the southeast for sure to open up that sight line. For us, it's just about 2 spots. To some degree, it can be really anywhere.
Thinking.
Any other questions? I have a follow-up. I believe on the sidewalk, there is storage as well, right?
Correct, under the canopy in front of the store, correct, yep.
So I think that falls under this statute as well. This,
That's like sidewalk sales that have been going on for years at consignment shops in town.
I think those
on
are,
Cromwell Avenue.
Stores is things are out in the morning and then at night it goes in,
But
right? I think now it's a temporary storage, so I think if you're going to apply sections, section 6, I want to apply it correctly to everything. So that we are not so there is an oversight on one aspect and we are, defining and following section for something else. I mean, I have seen the sidewalk, almost half full with the same material that you're going to store on the 2 parking sites, right? So
Does that go away? So
that can go, I think
does
something
this-
has to give.
Does that go away with this
Yeah,
storage?
I think something has to, because
Gotcha.
the storage is storage, and that's,
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Is it-
Yeah, in our mind, it wasn't going away. If we have to sort of pick between the 2 spots, we would pick in front of the store versus a remote location in the parking lot if we had to pick between the two spots. Ideally, we were looking for the additional space just by our mix of goods and from a customer service perspective, them carrying out 2 bags of soil versus pulling their vehicle up to a remote location in the parking lot to load their, that's our our thought process. Yeah, we just have those pallets staged in front of our window space. It doesn't go past our,
Right.
you
So
know.
that is outside
Yeah,
storage. That is,
could I make a comment?
yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That other storage, which, as Kim mentioned, has been there for a long time, that's not part of this application.
It may not be part of
The application.
application, but I think what we are doing is we are applying a section of our regulation. So are we not, so what happens to that outside storage? Does he have to come back to that particular storage because it's not approved? Just because somebody is storing that for years doesn't mean that now it's grandfathered from the regulations. So the concern.
Yeah, I understand that.
What is that?
But isn't that a function of the zoning enforcement officer rather than the planning and zoning commission for this particular instance?
So why can't that be discussed today? Just the concept of outside storage.
Well, we
What
can-
does outside storage
Yeah, it can be
mean?
discussed, but we can't put any requirements on it here because that's not what they're actually requesting and that's not part of this issue,
But I think
issue of tonight.
what we are trying to do is we are trying to identify outside storage area, which is 2 parking spaces. So today, what is being said is, if it gets approved, those are the only 2 parking spots, right? For storage.
Correct,
Now, what
yeah.
happens, so tomorrow, right? It's either the sidewalks or probably it's not the sidewalks anymore. It's only those 2 spaces, if approved, for storage, outside storage. So the question to the applicant is, what happens to that outside, the other outside storage? I think for zoning enforcement officer to go out, I think it's important to understand that what was approved is only this. So,
Correct, right.
so I think that's the whole reason of talking about what is outside storage that this board is approving or discussing today.
We will go back
Correct,
and
okay.
I will have our zoning enforcement officer look at anything to do with Ace Hardware, anything to do with that particular plaza, anything to do with other areas in town that have outdoor storage in front, and we will report that back to you.
Yep. Okay, so I think those are the concerns. What, at least my goal is define what is outside storage and what area is approved, so that the town enforcement officer can go out and implement the requirements under their statutes of enforcement. It cannot be behind the building, it cannot be on the sidewalks. If these 2 are approved, it can be only there with the requirements that may come along with that. So,
Yeah,
because.
the regulation took effect in July 30th of 2017, so we have to go back through and see what was prior, what was afterwards,
But prior.
throughout the town,
if
throughout the
some-
town.
But if something was there prior illegally,
The
That-
regulation took effect July 30th, 2017.
understood. But if something was there before, I mean, are you saying that if it was there before 2017, then this
Well,
doesn't apply?
there may be things that were approved. I don't have
But
to
again, that's
remember.
what you will look at and
That's
tell us.
correct, and we'll
that's-
report back
Right.
to you.
I mean, according to me, I don't think anything is grandfathered just because something was approved and something was happening before it was approved. Because
check.
it may be, so. Any other comments?
Just a reminder that the said regulation does state that there is
It does.
the option to waive the requirement for the display or use of merchandise for sale at retail when approved by the commissioner. So there is the option to waive. And that's if approved by the
Yeah.
commissioner and the site plan, so there is some discretion.
No, I think that there is that discretion. It's, again, I'm looking from, as you said, what was the intent of this? The intent is to make sure that, either it could be equipment or material or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
you don't want-
clean and
you-
doesn't look.
Yeah, you don't want it getting out of hand.
Yeah, and it doesn't, it's aesthetically pleasing, because imagine if we were the next door neighbor and we have a restaurant, people sitting outside, I think, so when you go to the intent, what was the intent? I think, so,
Just to go back to a couple points that were made. We talk about sight lines, we're talking about possibly now a 4-foot-high white fence. Are we still talking about moving it in the parking lot? Because, I don't know if anybody mentioned this, but I think it came up, that the loading of the product, like how does the loading process happen? Like a car pulls up to these spaces, so now there's a car in the parking lot next to this location doing the loading and unloading?
Yeah, they would park in one of the adjacent or corresponding.
in a spot. They're not
spot.
parking in front of this.
Not in front of it. They just park in a spot, and we would carry it over, wheel it over, put it in their car, just to get them closer, in theory.
So as a commission, are we concerned about this location for sightline purposes? And are we considering moving it to where the handicap space is? Or are we considering have them move that space to where they're proposing this and moving this to where the actual space is? Just need to get a feel, because I think we need to pin down where the actual thing is, or do we leave it to staff for sightline reasons? I'd like to throw that out to this commission, that if we're gonna go down the road of the screening and the 4-foot and all the conditions that go along with this, where does it actually go in the parking lot? Because we have a sightline issue, and we wanna eliminate the sightline issue, so.
I think what I see is we need a plan that shows exactly what it is, so that, for zoning enforcement officer, if something is happening, it can be controlled. Otherwise, just a plan like this is not sufficient for something, that, where the concerns are raised. So probably we'll need some sort of plans that looks at site distance and all that, rather than just talking about,
So would you
the abstract.
would you consider then tabling this to get more information about how it looks and where the fencing's gonna go, what kind of fencing is gonna happen, where it's actually gonna go in the parking lot, that type of thing?
And in addition, staff said, she's going to look at other areas as well, and report back on what's happening.
But the other areas have nothing to, and I'm talking about other areas in town, have nothing to do with this application.
I think the biggest concern I would have is it was brought up the sightline part and, the approximation, where this thing should be. Should it be to the east? Should it be where it is? How high the fence should be? I'm hearing 4 feet is kind of like where we are right now. What do we want to do as a commission? Do we want to get more information on how it looks? Or do we want to leave that to staff when it comes to sight lines and we just go forward with it?
At least
How
I
do we
would
wanna
like,
do this?
at least I would like to see the plans, and then we can leave
We
it
could,
at the commission.
excuse me,
Yep.
we could actually specify which 2 parking spaces they use, which I think is pretty obvious. It's not going to be the 2 that they're in right now. It would be the 2, looking at the map, that would be south of that, which would open up the sight lines, and it would also leave parking spaces next to the area that will be used, so the cars can pull into a parking space and load. I mean, to be honest, I shopped there and bought stuff in the spring, in the last 4 years. And we just go up and we don't even have to pick it up. We just kind of slide it from the pile into my trunk.
you.
So that would leave parking spaces there. But if we specify the parking spaces we'd like to see, that would solve this issue.
Giuseppe brought up a location, one parking row to the east, and I'm suggesting southeast of where those spaces are, in one row to the east, and just immediately behind this, but to the south. So you're not impacting the
cars-
first
so
two
where those two
spaces there,
cars are parked?
but where those two dark cars are parked. You see the blue square?
Yeah, that would be the
blue
most logical.
rectangle, and then there's it's kind of like overlapping half of the blue rectangle. So those two dark cars, and I put a cross-hatched area on it. And then to the south of that little cross-hatched area is an open space, and then it looks like a light-colored car.
So if we put it there, we have to have a fence on the aisle for the Route 3. And then we have to have a fence, to the east and a fence to the south.
You would anywhere, yeah.
So the loading will be through the spaces in the front?
However,
How,
the operation,
I'm,
Either the west or the north.
however the operations work.
so do we
That's-
want something, how do we keep it out of the accessible space? How do we know, how do we stop it from growing into the accessible space?
You would still have, well,
Move it one
they're
more
only
down.
allowed 2 spots, and then you could still have a,
So do we delineate 3 sides of it? So we protect the accessible space? If we move it, because now my concern is it's gonna go north into the accessible space.
Which is the handicap space.
Right.
Is,
I agree.
Well, you still have a space. You got one free space and then handicap space. If you move that blue box to the east and then to the south, you still have one space and then your crosshatch for handicap.
Oh,
I don't see the crosshatch. That's-
Yeah, I would
that's
say
different.
just move it east.
Show them that.
Crosshatch,
I would say just move it east, take that spot.
because that can't be handicapped, right? Because that's not enough
Still
there
not gonna
in the
interfere.
corner.
So the accessible space, it's very hard to see on this, and I have to pull up Google Earth to see it. I thought that was an island, and that's actually the accessible space.
yeah, right where that light.
So, yes, moving it to the east works. I thought that we had to jog it.
Yeah.
I thought the accessible space was farther south. So do we move it east and delineate sides?
Just table, it, get a better.
We should get a plan, rather than to be gonna be engineers and trying to figure out, and put, at least vote as designing something and approving.
So why don't we give the applicant instructions on how to proceed? If we table it and we a new spot to the east,
New spot where
sight lines are
sight
concerned,
lines are.
and screening is considered.
And screening, and just make sure that the handicap are impacted, handicaps. I mean, those should be the parameters. And and then applicant can come back
Okay.
and make sure,
So formally, we're gonna motion to table this application with guidelines to the applicant to come back for a more delineated plan of location and sightlines
And also,
Fencing.
Detail of the fencing
and detail of the fencing,
right, and
screening, detail of the screening.
and fencing.
and the way, we are defining the storage space. So I think as we discuss with the sidewalks and things, we want clarification on what's going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, that's, 'cause I,
Move for a second.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, yeah, we just need more information.
Yep, no problem. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
4B, site plan application, Rocky Hill Parks and Recreation Department, Raymond Carpentino, town manager, proposing to add 6 pickleball courts, plus related improvements, walkways, benches, landscaping, and drainage in Elm Ridge Park for property located at 376 Elm Street in R20 zoning district, ID 09-542.
Good evening, everyone. Greg Bowman, Parks and Recreation Director. I believe you guys are in possession of the most recent updates to the proposed construction of post-tension pickleball courts at Elmridge Park. One minor thing I do want to add, just so you're all aware, I did get an updated drawing yesterday that just added some benches in around the perimeter of the courts on both sides, just so everyone's aware of that. Those were not included in the drawings that were given to you. I don't think they were, at least. But in the last few months since I introduced this idea, I believe it was in October, we've actually changed the location of the courts. We are out of the upland review area. What we're proposing here is a 46 courts. He's going to be the project architect by linear feet to see how many courts we are able to get. This is going to be one solid pitch from east to west at 1/2 of 1%. There's going to be a new catch basin added, which will tie into the existing drainage. And I think I already told you about the benches that are going to be added. So happy to answer any questions that I'm able to answer. Pardon me, but I think I said the last time I am not an architect or engineer, so I will do the best of my ability to answer any questions any of you have.
Open up,
2 questions. One, I don't see it, but will these be lit?
No.
And secondly, bike racks, are there any bike racks?
There are bike racks currently in the park.
In this area, you're adding benches, is there opportunity for bike racks in this location?
I don't see why not. There could be. That could be an ad alternate, for sure.
That's all I have.
Commissioner, Seth?
In the previous presentation, we discussed handicap accessibility from the existing parking. There's 2 parking lots there. It's not showing on this now anymore, but there's a curb between the 2 parkings. Is there going to be anything done to give handicap accessibility onto this entranceway?
It would be from the back parking lots.
So there's 2 parking lots. There's
Yep.
one for the basketball courts.
Yep.
And then
There will be
there's-
accessibility from those parking lots straight to the
Correct. So there's a curb between the 2, which will block off the entrance to this. That's what I was questioning last time, and it's not showing it again. It's not showing any improvements in the parking lot, so that's why I'm questioning it. It's not visible on the mapping. I physically went by there and saw it. That's why I'm questioning it.
Okay.
Provide handicap access, walks, so there,
It appears there is.
in one area there is a curb, it appears to be, and on the other area there appears to be, like at a right angle, there appears to be a handicap accessible walk.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's,
But in one area there is a curb, so you have the option, it looks like, to do, when you're stepping over a curb in one area or not. Yeah,
So I guess the question is, there's no plans to do any improvements in the parking lot?
to the back parking lot.
Either parking lots, because it's not showing anything here.
Not that I know of.
So that's, yeah, my concern would be then handicap accessibility from both parking lots, if that's something.
That's something that
that you can look into.
we will do that.
Okay.
That has to be done. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Mr. Harsey?
One question, Craig. The gates that open up to the pickleball area, are those intended to be locked at any point in time, always open? Is this kind of for residents only? What do you kind of propose for that?
Great question. We would not lock the courts, not during playing season, and they would be open in the wintertime if it's a mild winter. If it's covered in snow or ice, obviously we wouldn't want them to be open because they would be dangerous. As far as access, it's our intention to obviously provide the service to the residents, but it is very popular and people play everywhere. So if people want to rent court space, they would have to do it through our department to guarantee court time, technically. And in that case, we would have a resident versus non-resident rate, which is what we do for any field rentals, any programs that we have, there's a different rate. And that would be to guarantee time. But the other way to do it is to pay to have someone there to monitor courts, which those costs would add up significantly over time. What I've gathered in my research is a lot of people, they do police themselves when it comes to playing. We will be putting on signage for, reservations, calling our department, or time limits for courts like we have over at Maxwell, which right now we have at 90 minutes, but if there's no one waiting, play on. So, and it's our intention to program these courts with lessons for beginners, with league play, and then obviously with open court time for residents. We've done a lot of research for this, and there's no perfect way to do it, so we're still kind of monitoring it as we go. It is just booming. We're adding additional we're adding additional programming in the gym now because we added an extra set of lines down in the community center, and all of Gina's programs are full during the day, and the people want to play, and a lot of them are residents that want to play too. Demands.
I think it's a great idea, absolutely. I just want to kind of reiterate one point I made last time, and I know there's budgetary constraints, I get it. Was consideration on to two things. One, I know you mentioned you made it 6. There's a shrunk post-tension concrete slab that gets poured. Any thought consideration for a cover? And going back to what Commissioner Zerilli mentioned, any consideration for lights? Lights at Maxwell Park is huge. You mentioned winter time. It's dark at 5 o'clock. If it's a mild winter, some lighting on the court, you're going to get extended use for sure. So I just don't know if talks were made with that.
That's a good question. Our architect is aware of the structure and to put that as an alternate. There could be a situation where in lieu of, if we
Just
don't
food.
get 6 and we get 5, but we got
Exactly.
some left over, who knows?
Exactly. Food for thought. It
Yeah.
extends, as you said, pickleball is the fastest growing sport. It extends the playtime for kids,
Yes.
middle-aged seniors, everyone across the board. So just something to consider.
Yeah, my wife bought the family pickleball rackets for Christmas this year. So, and with regards to your other question about lighting, that's definitely a budgetary issue right now. But the advantage of having the courts in the newer location is there is closer access to power in the event we need to, add conduit and, at least put conduit in during the construction phase so that at some point we could light it. We've also looked at, there are some solar options that go around the top of the fence that we've also looked into as well. So that's definitely a
A canopy
consideration.
with solar would be a perfect idea.
Yeah. No one coached me up to say that either.
That's good.
We have actually someone on our advisory board who's really
Yeah, just
gung-ho
food,
about
food
it.
for thought. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
all set, thank you.
Commissioner Leco?
No questions.
Commissioner Morehouse?
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Roberts?
I'm fine with the project, it's just I'm having a little trouble with some of the diagrams here. There's no legend on the existing conditions plan. And it doesn't become extremely apparent where the new proposed location is. There's nothing that calls it out.
So the new location is basically east of the Miracle Field, northeast. And the courts are gonna run north to south. And the courts will pitch for drainage east to west. Again, I don't do the drawings, so.
Yeah,
Where is it
sheet EX1 shows you existing conditions.
Yeah.
And I know the plans are very difficult
Well, they're hard to
to,
read,
s-
too.
they're difficult to read, and they were not easy to get the
Hopefully they're not
consultant
building-
to
they're building
prepare
off
it
this.
the correct way. But if you look at sheet EX1 and the town additional survey, subdrawing 2 on that sheet on EX1, and then flip over to section, sheet SEC2, you'll see some overlap. You'll see the juxtaposed pickleball courts, and then you'll see the Miracle Field, that same fence line with the Miracle Field on the left side of sheet EX1. And you'll see that same fence line on sheet, the next sheet. Do you see where,
Yeah.
Oh, I get it now.
and under existing, or the GIS survey, you see Miracle Field down by the basketball court, and there's a fence line there. So it kind of,
Oh, so the Miracle Field is that other?
It kind of
ball
follows.
Field on the right side of the road?
Yes,
yeah.
yep.
Oh. Oh, all right, so
So it kind of follows, Yeah.
it's somewhere between the pavilion and the pool.
It's pretty close to the pavilion, and to the pool. It's basically, if you took where the old softball field was there, since we then shut down, it's basically running along the first base / right field foul line, running that way.
I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner
Pressure. Fine. Play ball.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. So can I have a motion?
Motion to approve site plan application, Rocky Hill Parks and Recreation Department, for 6 additional pickleball courts in Elm Ridge Park.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Item C,
Appointments of Capital Regional Council of Governments, Regional Planning Commission, regular member and alternate member.
so anyone who want to volunteer?
Specifically, these are quarterly and their virtual meetings, correct, Kim?
These are Zoom meetings. The meetings are, you have a March, June, September, November meeting. They're at 7 PM via Zoom until further notice. Yes.
We got the first
Would
appointment,
anybody,
Alan, we got,
would anybody object to me volunteering?
I nominate you, Alan.
yes, we nominate Alan
Oh, thank you, sir.
as a regular member. How about anyone on my left? You tapped out?
Remember, we used to have to
Commissioner-
go. We used to go there to West Hartford, and that
Commissioner Brescia?
quite a feat. It's all Zoom now.
It is Zoom until further notice, correct.
Wow, that's
All
not
right, we
bad.
nominate Commissioner Brescia.
We have monthly meetings, but not to the, well, we have, so at our April meeting, we'll ask for a report from.
All right, so,
Do we need to vote now?
motion to appoint Customer House as a member and Mr. Brescia as an alternate with the crowd. All, any opposed? Motion passes.
Discussion of Intercounty Development update included but limited to need for special meetings, themes, and prior process, consultant selection, public outreach, interdepartmental budget.
Always. And I hope Victor and Dimple join the discussion because, or lead the discussion, because they were there at the Plan Implementation Committee meeting when we were talking about this. We, in our last year's budget, we do have 20,000 from last year's budget. We are requesting an additional 30,000 in our budget this year for the POCD review and update. The themes that we're seeing are resiliency, overall arching themes are resiliency and sustainability. We're seeing that throughout the town budget. We also want to get into, so those would be the overall arching themes. We obviously have to follow the state statutes as far as your requisite things to consider and discuss and talk about. This commission will be getting into more of the capital improvements planning, which you should be into. So that will be another component that we'll be talking about also. One of the processes that I know I had a conversation with our chairman about was the process for consultants. If we have a certain dollar amount, we don't need to go through the RFQ process under 25,000. So technically, I could go out consultant for it, and then hopefully we get the remaining funds, and then at that point we need to go through an RFP process for other parts of the plan if you want to do it that way, or we can go out with an RFQ for a consultant down, as we normally would. One of the thoughts was to do interviews or set up a committee. You can certainly do that if you so choose. Sometimes staff selects consultants. Sometimes the commission as a whole selects consultants. And that's things that I need some feedback from the commission on that. And I know there was some discussion at that Plan Implementation Committee meeting, but this is the body that will be working with whoever that consultant is.
I think overall, the discussion we had at PIC was that before we decide on the scope, like between staff and us, and say consultant do A, B, C, D, E, and then have public comment period and then open, charrette and things like that. What, at least with the thought process that I had was like, let's have public meetings now. Ask public what they want to see, what they want to, in the town, right? What are the new, latest and greatest that everyone else has heard about and they want town to incorporate, right, for planning? So we take those comments and then, discuss, share with staff, and then staff can share with consultant and say, okay, we got 20,000. What can we do? What can we achieve, right? We even prioritize some of those. If we got 50 items, we can't do all 50. So probably we hear, and then, we can come up with 5 or 10, things like that, and then give that to the consultant. So that's one thought process, like an open process. We are involving public in the beginning, not after the scope is developed, right? We are talking to the public while development of the scope. So I just wanted to have discussion on that, and then, as far as the selection of the consultant, I think should be just town staff who does that. I think they have done in the past, rather than bringing it up here. I think town staff knows, what they're looking for, and they have done selections for other consultants, not just POCD. So at least my belief is it should be left to the staff and let them recommend and do the process rather than we get involved in that process. So I just want to, have maybe discussion thoughts, whether, good, bad, otherwise, or something new.
With
So,
respect to public input, I would ask that include other boards and commissions as well. Typically, we do like low survey, or if we're having a public forum, if they want to have representatives come or submit correspondence or whatever, I think
Yeah.
that would be.
What was that thing we did online? Did we do something, what was that
We
thing?
did a survey online.
Survey.
Yep.
Housing?
For
The
Like
housing.
a survey.
Can we just
Survey
follow
Monkey.
that template
Yeah, we
to
could do
start
something
the
like that.
process and do like a social,
Yep.
that kind of thing
Yep.
first?
Yep.
See where it goes, and then at least you are with some information as a staff to, hey, our little survey of 500 people say, type of thing, because we had a good turnout for that survey.
We did.
After seeing the
We
results.
got it through, like, the local periodicals, Rocky Hill Life, a reminder, there was.
Use the Parks and Rec
outreach,
base,
yeah.
the whole thing.
That was done by the consultant. So consultant had a lot of time put in, like preparing the questionnaire and all that stuff. So if you want to do it now, that falls on the staff. So,
We could do something similar to
yeah,
that.
so,
Here's a grassroots one, start, see what happens. If you get 3, we need a consultant. If you get 1,000, we got a good head start.
so I think we develop that
Yeah.
and discuss, if you can draft something, then we can have that conversation, send it out. So that's, any other on seeking back from community? I think that's,
That's a good.
Yeah, my only concern is, however we get input, we just don't want to leave it wide open because
Oh, absolutely.
it's scattered, and then we'll have a harder trying to put it together. So I think they works well, as long as we can
yeah.
put together
Bring
a
it
good
in.
survey
Yep.
that asks the right questions. But I think that would be the first step.
And, so Kim, you can put something together and then we can discuss.
Okay.
And as far as the selection, is it fair, like we just give it to town staff and say, staff handle the selection of consultant?
I concur with that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They do these professional better than we do.
Yep.
And they know the budget.
More so.
Any other topics you wanted to discuss, Kim, on?
Concerning the POCD, there will be a community resiliency workshop that will be done. It's being handled through engineering as the lead, and that will take place within the next couple months, we hope. It is a public process, getting stakeholders from the town involved, and that I see as a document that will eventually be considered by this commission for inclusion in its entirety into the new POCD, as well as the affordable housing plan as a chapter in the POCD. And once that's revised, that will be a revision of the plan as well. So
So, and I'm just thinking out loud, so when those two commissions prepare something, would there be a, public process from P and Z? Because otherwise, we would be just taking it and putting it in.
That, we have to have a public hearing for a plan of creation and development.
Right.
And the affordable housing plan is already an existing
It's already
document.
done, yeah.
That will become a part of our POCD unless the public hearing process says no, and the commission says, no, we don't want it to be. I don't see why you would say that, but don't know. But the other document, it's not a commission per se, there is a core group of staff people. And then we're going to be branching out into the community and using other department heads and commission members from different boards and commissions, as well as different stakeholders in town, to form the core team that will put forth the document. Nature Conservancy is the consultant for that particular
So,
item.
'cause I want to make sure that P and Z has that input.
Yep.
When something is included in the documents that are prepared by P and Z.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to, when you have to act on them,
Yep,
yes.
okay. Any other comments?
What is the deadline for our final product? I think it's
June
2025.
2025,
That's next year,
correct.
June 2025, yep.
just so that we don't feel like we have to squeeze everything in 2 months and get everything done.
No, so I think
Okay.
that's why we were, I believe, we were also planning for separate special meetings for discussion, so that we are not bogged down with our regular meetings.
So when we set aside the fourth Wednesday of the month for special meetings, which we've done for years, just in case, you may have to have a meeting, a special meeting on those days, and that's the purpose of those meetings.
Right. Okay, any other comments, observations on this? Kim, do you have?
Not yet.
Item 5A, election of officers. We can have a motion. For-
Motion to nominate Dimple Desai as chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second?
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Second was Giuseppe.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would nominate Commissioner Zarelli as the vice chair.
Second? Oh, you want to make a motion? Or you made it?
No, I made a
made it.
motion.
I second it.
Yep. All in favor of motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Motion to nominate Giuseppe Aglico as secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations all. Item
Congratulations, Mr. Aglico.
5B, 2024 bylaws. I think if everybody remembers, like, we went through these bylaws
Ad
for
nauseam.
like, yeah, ad nauseam.
Ad nauseum.
So, any comments on the bylaws?
I think we, as Victor hinted, I think we pretty much beat this to death last year. And I looked through the bylaws a couple of weeks ago, and I don't see anything really significant that it has to change. I think it's pretty much the way it should be, or the way we would like it to be. And we're all the same members anyway, so I don't see any reason to change.
All right.
That's my comment.
Any other comments? Having none, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the bylaws, 2024 bylaws.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes
Boy,
5-0.
that was easy.
Yes. Zoning enforcement.
I would ask Dimple to sign the copy in front of him and get it back to me, if you could, and then I'll, Thank you. Zoning enforcement, I have given Ben Winter, the new assistant planner, ZEO, the spreadsheet that I had been working on, and he is going to use that along with something he did when he was in New Canaan to come up with a different, maybe more sortable spreadsheet for things that are completed or things that are being monitored or whatever. So he's busy working on that now. He's had some interesting complaints recently on structures that have all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere. Attached structures that were originally proposed and built as detached structures that are now attached. And, if it's an attached structure, the setbacks are different, so things are now in violation, or additional sheds being placed on properties without permits. So there's a few interesting cases that he's working on now, so. But-
So what's the process? Like, do we send them notification and then,
Well,
fines?
we always, we don't start out, with the big stick. We start out with a phone call.
Yep.
Or going to talk to them. That's the best way. Oftentimes, people don't know what they're doing. In the particular case that I mentioned, I tend to think they did. But a lot of times, people don't know the process. So it's one of education, but we always try to call and reach out to the property owners first, whether it be a phone call or a knock on the door. After that, then we usually send a violation notice, and we give them 10 days to respond. And that's a response, not necessarily compliance, because 10 days for compliance for some things is impossible. So it's for them to respond to the letter. And sometimes they don't even know. Sometimes it's a matter of getting a permit. Sometimes it's a matter of removing something, and that takes more than 10 days. But there is a set process, and once a violation letter is issued, then there may be fines. I did tell him, because of the blight ordinance, obviously when the springtime comes, we're going to get a lot of complaints that are for tall grass. We get them every year. And tall grass per our blight ordinance is a foot. I know it's not zoning, but we enforce several other ordinances. And in the spring, it's usually the blight ordinance that we end up getting many complaints on. So he's prepared for that, so.
What is, just so we're all on the same page and the public knows, what is the process? He waits for a complaint to come in, or does he have set hours that he drives around or walks around the town?
If you're driving down the street, he's driving down the street, if I'm driving down the street, and something is so blatantly obvious, we will,
Okay.
if it's really blatantly obvious and we see it. Sometimes people call in with complaints. Most of the complaints we get are not necessarily valid, or it's a very easy fix. It's a very easy fix.
Is there a location on the website where public can say zoning problem, ? Hit a button and send it?
There is a town app. I know there is a town app, and there is something on the website also. I believe there's something on the website, yes. You can call any of our numbers, which are on the website, and you can.
App's been out for over a year now.
Yeah.
What's the feedback?
We don't get, our office doesn't get a lot of complaints. I know in zoning, we don't get a lot of complaints that way. A lot of calls go to the town manager's office. And as far as screening something, they know that number, the overall town hall number. They go there, and then they get farmed out to the various departments. So, and we get complaints for things that we don't even enforce. Oftentimes we get complaints for snow on sidewalks. People haven't shoveled their sidewalks. If it's an active construction site, we will contact the property owner, especially the commercial properties. If it's a residence that there's a building permit outstanding, if one of us gets the call, and we know there's a building permit on there, we will contact the permittee just as an FYI, oh, by the way, and they'll usually reach out to the property owner. But it doesn't specify in that ordinance who enforces that. I mean, that's not a zoning thing, but we get the calls. So we don't drive by looking
We
for
spoke-
snow on sidewalks, so
Yep, Alan?
we don't.
We spoke back in the, believe it was the November meeting, of not, I don't want to drag him into a meeting, but of actually having him come and introduce himself so we know who we're talking about. Is that possible in the
Yes.
next
Yep,
couple
that
months?
is. Yep.
But not sit through the whole meeting because he probably quit.
That's not good.
I'm joking. Thank you.
Motion.
Item D, minor modifications,
No, none.
nothing, right? So I think you used to prepare a spreadsheet, right, that we used to have.
We just talked about that, how I gave it to
Uh,
Ben and he's
Ben will
tweaking
provide
it.
it for us, newly sorted.
All right. There you go.
Tick.
You already in my agenda, bro.
Plan
Was that item five?
Plan Implementation Committee.
Pick.
Already spoke.
We already talked about PIC.
Yeah, the only thing with PIC is we do need new members as there have been new appointments, so letters will be going out to the different commissions and asking for a
I think
representative.
if, we talked about if you can prepare a letter, then once I send it out, I'll follow up with them, because I think we
Okay.
need, this time around, we need.
This time around, we're going to need, yeah,
Representation,
Yep.
because of POCD. So,
even though this body is in charge of it.
Yep.
Yeah. They're in charge of implementing it, but we don't have it.
Hmm.
to- yeah.
Any legislation?
If you go online to the different committees, you're going to see they're holding a lot of different hearings on new laws that they're introducing to the different committees, and there's pages and pages of different public acts, so I'm starting to wade through what may be applicable. They have the Planning and Development Committee, and they have some things that are being proposed, so I'm wading through those now, so I can bring those to the commission. But once again, those are only proposed. This was brought to my attention by somebody in town about, there's an act being proposed at the Planning and Development Committee that is concerning temporary shelter units for homeless individuals being allowed on religious organization properties. So small units with sanitation facilities, what have you, on a temporary basis, and that's being studied right now by the Planning and Development Committee. And we do have several religious organizations in town on which this could be happening, but we don't know if it's going to go anywhere. So I will get you folks the list of the different bills that the various committees are studying, and copies of those that I feel are at least pertinent. But if you feel you need other information, I'll get that for you.
All right.
There's a lot out there.
Item 6, communications.
I've included in your packet was the town's ethics policy. I'm pointing this out to all the boards and commissions at least I deal with. It talks.
Will there be training on this, or no? 'Cause I think-
This
didn't we
this
have
has
training
been,
last time?
yeah, this has been in effect for a while, and I know you guys are the same, and I really am glad that there has been no change here. But I'm bringing it to all the commissions I deal with, so to make sure there is no conflict of interest, know that if you have a personal or financial interest in an application, that you should step down, or if could be a perceived conflict of interest, that you seriously consider stepping down. And if you do recuse yourself on an application, you not only step away from the table, but you actually leave the room and someone will come get you if you feel that's the case, there is an OSTA permit for 125 Henkel. State Traffic Commission has included that. Eversource,
That's a good progress there. I think everybody saw that, right? Henkel Way, Vessel Technology is moving forward.
yeah, moving forward, they've applied for foundation permits and they're underway. So that's good. The Eversource is going to be working to remove some trees in certain areas, so I know that our office will be getting calls about that, what's going on. Oh my God, they're tree trimming again. Every time utility companies come out and do something, whether it be MDC, Eversource, whomever, we get all the calls, and who knows, if people know you're on planning and zoning, you may get calls too. So, the Department of Energy and the Environment at the state level, working with the town Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency. We had Dave Pomberg, who now is over there to the Bob Alvarado spot. He went out to the former landfill and took photographs. They had actually cleared quite a number of acres. Originally, we thought they had just cut trees. They actually stumped. So DEEP issued a notice of violation on the landfill owner. So he's working right now with the Inland Wetlands Watercourses Agency to hopefully stop work on that, do wood chip berms to prevent some erosion, and hopefully that will be corrected. They have to come in.
They stopped the work.
They stopped the work, but they did quite a bit. They did quite a bit of work up there. So, yeah. I've given a sheet of its priorities and issues that have come up with respect to town budgets, and just looking at it should be in your packet. It's the budget schedule, the 24-25 budget schedule of workshops and public hearings, and as well as what is the town's priorities. And you can see, based upon what we have here, we have, with respect to at least the department I deal with, community development, affordable housing plan, Fair Rent Commission, updated POCD, implement resiliency plan, EV charging station build out. They're really gung ho on that. They're talking about a lot of the infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, bridges, catch basins, drainage. We're hoping to update the townwide drainage plan, which was last updated in the early 70s, I believe. So it really needs work. The Rocky Hill Community Farm, economic development issues, pedestrian connections to the river, Silestine Highway. And I don't know if you're aware that there is a grant that was, what do they call it? Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, an SS4A grant, in the amount of $781,000, granted to the town of Wethersfield and Rocky Hill. It's to study Silestine Highway from Parsonage Street north to the Wethersfield line. Wethersfield is taking the lead on this grant. They have a person that deals with grants in their employ, and most of the property is in Wethersfield. They're looking at roadways, traffic crashes, access management, land use, development patterns, multimodal transportation. Is it just too wide? Are looking at dual turn lanes, bike lanes, ADA, all types of transportation. So
So with so you said they are taking the lead, is that
they're
like,
taking the lead.
is that 50-50 or that was 70-30 or?
Um,
Because you said they got the majority.
Yeah, we're contributing, it's a 20% match. We're contributing approximately 39,000, where they're contributing 117,000, just based upon the length of roadway and the fact that the majority of it is in Weathersfield.
So the grant we received, I mean, that was.
It's a regional type grant in that there's two towns, but it's looking at everything from Parsonage north to Hartford. And it's a planning study. It's not a, we're going to build sidewalks, we're going to build bike lanes. It's to see what we can do to address those
The study,
issues. Yeah. So, just as an FYI. Okay.
I think we also got grant for housing, right? From DOH for,
I believe so, for Willow Road.
for Willow
yeah.
Road.
For Willow Road. I forgot the amount. I wrote it down last evening.
It was
Yes.
700.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
it was in millions.
Yeah,
2
it
million.
was- it
Yeah.
was-
Is what I read.
Yeah, so. It's very good.
And then we had legal notice on cannabis.
Oh, that's, she put the legal notice in for our next meeting. I don't know why.
All right. Any other communications? Anybody? Mr. Hussey is looking at, no? Okay. Can I approve, we have no bills?
bills.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Thank you all.